Walk through the ruins of the ancient world and you will find names everywhere. Empires remembered, cities remembered, gods remembered. What is harder to find are the people themselves, the languages they spoke, the traditions they held. Most ancient civilizations do not vanish all at once. They fade. Their laws echo faintly in later societies. Their stories survive in fragments, pieced together and retold by others. Their monuments remain long after the hands that built them are gone. History is full of worlds that left behind stone, but no living voice. Israel is not one of them. Across centuries of conquest, exile, dispersion, and return, Israel remains. Changed, wounded, often scattered, but still a distinct people. This episode is not asking whether Israel is chosen. It is asking how Israel lasted. We will begin with the simple things history can still see: shared identity, sacred words, teachers and caretakers, practices repeated in time, a language remembered, laws carried into new places, and a people who adapted without disappearing. These are not unique to Israel. Every civilization has some of them. What is rare is how long Israel kept so many of them together without losing its core as a people. This does not mean other peoples did not endure. It means few carried so much intact for so long across so much loss. This story begins before kings and borders. Long before Israel was a nation, it was already known in the ancient world. In the late Bronze Age, Egyptian records mention Israel not as a city or a kingdom, but as a people group. That single detail carries weight. It tells us that Israel entered history already defined by belonging, not by territory. This does not explain everything about their beliefs or way of life, but it does allow us to follow Israel through time as a living community, even when political forms rise and fall. From the beginning, Israel is treated here as a people first and a state only later. History shows why this distinction holds. Many ancient peoples appear briefly in the record and then disappear. Very few remain recognizable after centuries of conquest, exile, and change. Identity does not stay alive by accident. It is kept. For ancient Israel, belonging was never based on just one thing. It was shaped by family ties, shared practices, sacred law, and recognition by the community itself. These boundaries were not rigid. They shifted over time. But the idea of guarding who belonged never disappeared. That mattered when political power was lost. Even without kings or land, the question of belonging still had an answer. Continuity here does not mean everything stayed the same. It means the people knew who they were, even as the world around them changed. One of the turning points in Israel's story is where memory moves from place to page. As kingdoms rise and fall, authority no longer rests only in land, buildings, or power. It moves into learning, teaching, and remembering. The written word becomes a way of carrying identity when everything else is lost. This does not mean the texts never change. It means the care for them never stops. Scrolls are copied, words are taught, meanings are passed from one generation to the next, wherever the people go. Many civilizations leave writings behind. Very few carry them forward as a living inheritance. The destruction of the Second Temple shattered the center of Jewish life. History does not soften that moment. It was a breaking point. What matters is what came next. In late antiquity, Jewish communities were forced to reorganize under imperial rule. Custodianship shifts. The old institutions change shape. Continuity is maintained not by keeping old structures intact, but by rebuilding what mattered most: teaching, adjudication, ritual leadership, textual transmission. That distinction matters. For many civilizations, a loss like this becomes an ending. Israel does not avoid rupture. It survives by finding new ways to carry what mattered. When people are scattered, continuity becomes harder to sustain. Distance strains memory. Customs thin out. The next generation forgets what the last one knew. For Israel, scattering did something different. Life did not end. It changed shape. Across the centuries, Jewish communities learned how to live without land or kings. They carried their way of life with them into new places, town by town. They settled disputes among themselves. They taught their children. They marked time together through shared days and seasons. These communities did not all look the same. They lived under many rulers and many laws. But the core of daily life stayed familiar. Law continued without a state. Learning continued without a homeland. Leadership adapted instead of disappearing. Memory does not survive on words alone. Ritual is how it is lived. As the people were scattered, the old forms could not always be kept, but the practices remained. What once happened in the temple gradually moved into homes, gatherings, and study. The shape changed, the meaning did not. These repeated actions did something words alone could not. They kept the past close. They tied one generation to the next. Through ritual, memory stayed alive in everyday life. Continuity does not survive by accident. It survives because people remain connected. Across centuries and continents, Jewish communities stayed in contact with one another. They wrote to one another. They traveled. They studied with one another. Questions were asked. Answers were shared. Customs were compared and carried back home. These connections did not erase differences. Life in one place was never exactly the same as life in another, but they kept communities from drifting too far apart. Even when separated by distance and rule, they still knew they belonged to the same story they had always carried. Most ancient languages fade when daily life moves on. They survive only in inscriptions or forgotten texts. Hebrew followed a different path. For centuries, it remained alive in prayer, study, and memory. It was spoken less, but never abandoned. Then, in the modern age, something rare happened. The old language returned to everyday speech. Children learned it. Neighbors spoke it. Street signs carried it. It was not magic. It was effort, choice, and patience. Few languages ever make that journey. Fewer still succeed. In recent history, the story bends once more. After long centuries of dispersion, a major center forms again in the land, while Jewish life continues across the world. People arrive from many lands. They bring different accents, customs, and memories, but they share a past. Old practices take on public form again. A remembered language fills daily conversation. This moment does not erase loss or answer every question. It shows something simpler, that what was carried for so long could still be gathered. Most civilizations do not simply disappear. They come apart. Rome left laws that shaped the world, but Roman identity did not remain intact as a people. It blended into successor cultures, religions, and regions. Egypt left temples and monuments, but its ancient religious and scribal systems did not continue in the same form. What followed was something new. China followed a different path. Power fell, but again and again it was rebuilt around enduring cultural centers. Continuity returned through repeated political reformation. These paths are not failures. They are reminders. Civilizations endure in different ways. Israel's path will be easier to see once these are understood. Many groups carried their identity through hardship. Armenians carried faith and memory across centuries. Their communities took many forms, shaped by place and circumstance. Parsis preserved their traditions with care, but their numbers and reach remained small. Assyrians remembered who they were, yet pressure and loss narrowed what could be carried forward. Samaritans endured by growing smaller. Survival came at the cost of scale. Endurance is not the same as continuity. Israel lost many things. Land was lost. The temple was lost. Political power was lost. Daily speech faded. What did not vanish all at once was the people themselves. When one part was taken away, another carried the weight. When land was lost, law carried more weight. When place was taken away, practice held people together. When power was gone, learning became central. The shape changed. The story did not end. This story does not end with a conclusion. It ends with a pattern. Across time, loss, and change, Israel remained present, not untouched, not unchanged, and still present. What that means is a question. History can only show that this kind of survival is rare. The meaning of it is left to the listener.